2 summers ago, we just saw, the world flipped upside down with the murder of George Floyd, and that changed everything. I know for me, it was my Emmett Till moment, and our generation's Emmett Till moment, and we'd never seen anything like that. I mean, I don't even know if we've seen stuff like that in the movies, and that something shifted. And I had people reaching out to me in the faith community, Chamber of Commerce, law enforcement, just wanting to kind of say, hey, we got to do better. We can be better, Eric. What's going on? And to see that the incumbent sat at the Capitol on January the 6th and encouraged the riots that happened, it was just too much.
Let's call
And
it insurrection.
the
Let's
insurrection, yeah,
yeah, let's call it
insurrection,
insurrection. Because they
yeah,
literally defiled the Capitol and tried to
yeah.
overthrow our government.
Yeah, yeah, and it's unfortunate, that like you said, eloquent, good-looking kid, and people gave him the benefit of the doubt. But he's, when he got elected, he said, "I'm about comms and not constituents," and he stayed true to that. He doesn't care one thing about this district, and with the redistricting and things like that, he's running away. He's running to another district right now, District 13. Everything's been renumbered. We're now District 14 here in Western North Carolina,
Ah,
and he's running to District 13 because it's a redder district. We got a little blue, and we got, there's a
oh,
R plus
okay,
15.
all right. So he could still be in Congress after all of this, Eric Gash. Daggone it! Wait a
Well,
minute.
hey, that and it still needs mobilization. We still need to get out the vote. We still
So
need to
wait,
empower
pause for
people.
a second. Let me.
Hmm.
Y'all need to understand this. He's leaving a district because it was redistricted in a way that is not as favorable for him. So he's
Right.
able to be in another district and run for Congress where he can probably win, have an easier shot at winning.
I can't prove that. He didn't call me and tell me, but the numbers show it went from an R15, R plus 15 to about an R plus 6 or 7 with the redistricting. And so he kind of heard, what's happening on the ground, like I'm hearing what's happening on the ground. And there's a groundswell of, I'm sick of this. We gave him the benefit of the doubt, and the kid did not deliver. He hasn't delivered. And it will be an open seat, and we have a primary to run, and that's why I'm so thankful to be on this show, because I know you have a massive outreach, and we need to take this thing seriously. It's gone way too far for us to turn back now. We cannot fail at this, Karen. We have to keep pushing forward, but it's going to take us mobilizing. It's going to take us getting out, getting the folks that folks that you don't know, knocking on doors and saying, listen, our voice is our power. Our voice, our vote is our power. And we have to get out. We see what happens when we show up. We see what happens when we vote. We win. And it's hard for them to stomach that. And so that's why the redistricting and all this thing is taking place, and the gerrymandering continues.
North Carolina's 11th district. How far is that from Durham, which elected its first black woman as mayor? How far is
Yeah,
that from
Durham's
Durham?
about 4 hours east of,
Okay, so
of
it's
us.
not
We're up here
close
in
at
the
all.
mountains. We're
Okay.
closer to Atlanta than we are to Durham.
Okay, that's good to know. Because I have no perspective. I know my mom lives in North Carolina, but I drive and then I just stop. Hendersonville.
Right.
That's where you grew up. You went to
Yes,
public school.
I
You were an
did.
athlete. You were also named to the All ACC team 2 years in a row for the University of North Carolina. Those of you out there who like Michael Jordan, the Tar Heels,
Tar
you
Heel
know you
Nation.
you better say it. Kenny Smith as well. As a person who is also a pastor,
Yes.
the calling to run for office, church and state, reconcile that for me, Eric Gash.
It didn't come lightly. I uh, prayed about it long and hard. My wife, we've been married for 25 years. We have 3 grown kids, and this is a life change for me. My career is education. I was principal at my old elementary school, first African American principal in our county since 1965. I was the first Black head football coach in Henderson County since 1965, and second only in Western North Carolina, period. And so I know this is a huge step. And as a full-time pastor, as a police chaplain, as a prison ministry volunteer, and sit on a number of boards, I can no longer sit on the sidelines and say nothing and do nothing and just vote. And I had to get in the ring. And when people were reaching out to me, I mean, this got in my spirit. And I couldn't sleep at night, Karen. I was up tossing and turning, and I'd wake up with this on my mind. And my mom always taught me, my mom is the strongest person that I know. I grew up in a single person household, and I had an alcoholic father who verbally and physically abused my mom, verbally abused my brother and I. And my mom stood strong, and she modeled what it's like to be a Christian behind closed doors, not just out in the public, but behind closed doors. I saw that. And my mom taught us that if you can do something, you do it, because the world is not changed. It's changed by our example and not our opinion. And so when I saw this going on and saw that that Cawthorn lives about 15 minutes from my house, I said, I got to do something. I have to step up, because we're not being represented. Our voices are not being heard. And like I said, being an athlete, that rose up in me. Being a coach, being an administrator, a father, a husband, that protective thing rises up in you and says, wait a minute. If we can do better, and we can do better, we have to be better, and we have to act on it. And so I can no longer, I had to practice what I preach. I stand in the pulpit every Sunday, and I preach the word of God. And the unfortunate thing what's going on in our church community around the nation is people are too busy trying to speak for Christ instead of live for Christ. We need folks who are going to live with their actions.
And hold people. Eric
and
Gash,
hold
let
them
me tell
accountable.
I'm going on social media, looking you up, going on your website, checking you out. The playing field has to be even, right? The Republicans have a whole lot of folk like Cawthorn and Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and folks that are going to be in people's faces saying all kind of horrible things and galvanizing the what I call the demon cast, the clan adjacent demon cast. They have a messenger and one voice. They're on the same page. And I feel like the Democrats are all over the place. There's no strong message. And the House of Representatives in particular is about representation. To only have a handful of people here and there, maybe it's the squad, but even the squad doesn't represent all of us, right? So there's, Cori Bush over here, and and not all of them are perfect, but there's no other varying voices to speak to that, particularly that Christian ethic that you're talking about, that right now the Republican right-wing clan adjacent demon patrol have a lock on Christianity in this country. So I'm happy that you're there when you get there, and I'm calling them, speaking it into creation.
Speaking it, that's right. That's right, Karen.
Because I don't think you're going to sit on the sidelines and let them carry the mantle of Jesus. Like, I don't
No,
think they should even be able to do that.
no, we can't, Karen. And that hurts my heart more than anything else when I hear people who, and we saw in the insurrection on January the 6th, you saw the Trump flag and the Christian flag flying right beneath it. And that just tore my heart in two, because it now gives people a reason who are maybe curious about Christianity to say, oh, well, look, is that what they do? Is that who they represent? And that's not who we represent. And, that there are folks that I know here in the community that say you can't be a Democrat and Christian. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Who gave Republicans the authority to counter the market on Christianity? It doesn't make sense. And if you look at the tenets of faith, or just the basic tenets of faith in the Bible, Jesus said, love one another as I have loved you. Well, when you're calling people filth and saying that they're worthless, like our lieutenant governor did, when you're doing these things from a pulpit, come on, man, we can't, nobody is worthy to sit in the judgment seat of Christ. We need to love folks. We need to love people like we've been loved, and give people the benefit of their humanity, and be patient, just like how God has been patient with us, and love folks instead of all this divisive, I'm going to take up arms and there may be bloodshed if things don't go the way we want. People ask me all the time, what's the greatest threat to our democracy or America? And it's not coming. Yeah, we have threats from Russia and China and Iran and North Korea, but the greatest threat is from within. If you can destroy a country from within, the deadliest war that we've ever had in our history is a civil war. And if we destroy a country from within, all the other ones just have to sit back and look. We can't allow that to happen, but that's going on right now before our very eyes. And they're flying it under the banner of Christianity, and it's not right. And we have to have people to stand up and say, wait a minute, no. This is what it's supposed to look like. This is how it's supposed to be. We can disagree, and I still love you. My wife and I have been married for 25 years, 25 wonderful years. but we don't agree on everything, but I still love her, and we can still commune. We can still disagree and love each other.
As you're talking, Eric Gash is here. Gash, like upside your head for Congress. Gash for Congress. I'm also, reminded that we might be in a cold civil war as we speak. So, we need to not prepare. We need to fight. Like, no one
Yeah.
can sit on the sidelines. Is kind of where I am right now. You're not going to be able to just get your popcorn and watch this. You
No.
you will be involved on some level when you get elected to Congress. North Carolina's 11th district. Gash for Congress. What are three things that you would like to see get done under your leadership?
Wow. Only the three things that I and Karen, I'm sorry, like I said, with redistricting, it's District 14
Oh, I'm sorry.
here
I'm
in Western
sorry.
North
I'm
Carolina.
sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sorry. Okay.
everything's got to get updated. It
Come
just
on, North
happened, so we're
Carolina, with your redistricting. Okay. My
yeah, so
bad.
it's District 14, and it's ericgash.com is the website you can go to. The pillars that I'm building my campaign on are education, economy, and environment. My friends call me Big E, and I'm talking about Big E's Big Three. And we have to start with education. Education is the key, to our future, to our kids. When I was principal at my old elementary school, I had a kid. He looked up at me one day and he said, "Mr. Gash, you think I could be principal one day?" It's one of my he was a second grader at the time, little, one of my African American students. Boy, I almost started crying, Karen, right there. I did, because he's never had the opportunity to say that, to look at a principal, someone who runs that entire school, and identify. And we have to understand that we have to get in these seats of higher education. We have to get on boards. We have to get in the judges' seats, and in the lawyer rooms, in the board rooms, so that we can help craft these decisions that are affecting our nation, that are affecting our people. And education is the way to do that. Starting with universal pre-K. We need to get our babies in school. We need to start them with that socialization and learning process early, so that when they hit kindergarten, they're going to hit the ground running. When in the second and third grade, when they have these AIG tests that are a little skewed, to say the least, our kids are going to have a fighting chance. And so when we look at education, we have to increase funding for it. We have to pay our teachers like the professionals that
I
they
mean, but
are.
didn't the president just, in part of the Build Back Better plan, put into effect tuition free pre-K for 3 and 4 year olds? That's part of that Build Back Better. Is that part of that?
That's part of it. That it is part of it, and it's so
And
vitally important that we get that through.
yeah, I mean, Head Start saved. I know for a fact, as an educator, I know, I physically know students that were saved and were able to, excel academically because of Head Start. I can't
Yeah.
imagine what Universal Pre-K is going to do.
Yeah. I mean, it blows the roof off the top especially for our Black and brown kids. And our representative voted against it. you know,
Hawthorne.
and yeah, Cawthorn, he voted against it. And so, we have kids in our district that 6% of the kids in our district live below the child poverty level here in our state. And we've got to do something about that. That will help lift kids out of poverty, and families is a generational thing too.
So that leads us to economy.
Yeah, economy. We have to pay a living wage. The minimum wage here in North Carolina, I'm glad you're sitting down, Karen, is $7.25. That's Come on. Who can live off of that? You can't raise a family off of that. So we have to make sure that we're paying folks a living wage. If that's $15, if it's $20, if it's 15.75, 16, we have to find out what that is, because it's going to be different, of course, around the country as far as the cost of living. But we have to look at paying folks, raising that minimum wage, and looking at workforce and affordable housing. We live here in the beautiful mountains of Western North Carolina, and it's a desirable place to live. The changing of the seasons is beautiful. It's very temperate here. It's outstanding, but you can't live anywhere. I have two grown kids that just graduated last year from college, two boys. I'm trying to get them out of my house, right? These fellas are bigger than me. I'm 6'3", 230. One is 6'6", and the other is 6'5". I need to get them out of my house, Karen. But they, working for, one of my sons works for Amazon. The other one works at the Boys and Girls Club. They love what they do, but they can't,
They
they're
can't
not
afford
being
it.
paid. They can't afford it. So we have to do something about that, looking at the economy and looking at green technologies. I know we can't flip a switch right now and all of a sudden we're green and the carbon footprint is zero, but we can start making those changes. Should have started 3 decades ago, right? But looking at green energies with solar, wind, and hydropower, looking at electric motors and battery power. And the infrastructure bill talks about these electric vehicle charging stations, because you only have what, a 300-400 mile range on these vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
So just getting all that infrastructure in place, as well as with solar power, having to retrofit our power grids, that's going to create jobs. It's going to save the environment. And guess who voted against it?
Yeah, yeah.
California. You know
Carphone.
what I mean? So
Yep.
it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We need to look at workforce with immigration too. That's another issue.
And what's the third?
And the third is environment.
Okay, which you
We
just
need to
kind
be
of
able to
hit.
say
You
that,
just
that
hit
we
it. You
just
just
kind of
hit it.
hit, yeah. And they
Okay.
flow into one another. We have to look at that.